is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Radiohead, broadcasting live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, your hosts, Tyler Klutz, Kristi Scales, and Brad Sham.
Defer. We defer.
Wait, I'm Walt Anderson. I did not hear you.
We
I didn't hear you.
So after the show, you won it, right?
We defer. Well, first of all, I'm very glad that I heard Babe Laufenberg and Tyler Klutz talking late in the week about the fact that the Cowboys would probably beat the Rams by 3 touchdowns at least.
You totally called it. Way to go, Tyler.
So I'm saying, check my MySpace. It was on there.
So, and then I'm just going to presume if you are tuned into this podcast whenever you're tuned into it, that you're aware of the kerfuffle over the opening coin flip, which is just perfect for the way their season has gone, the Cowboys. But just to recap for a moment, because Kristi is still a little exercised about the whole thing,
I'm very
which I
exercised
find
about it.
very amusing. So we always on the radio broadcast carry the coin flip, and sometimes, depending on what's said, I'll throw a little comment in, and sometimes not. And I think that we were a tick late getting the audio turned up for me to hear the whole thing. But I knew that the Rams were the visiting team. They called the flip, and I heard Walt Anderson say it was whatever the opposite was. And then the next thing I thought I heard was Dak Prescott saying something that didn't make sense because it sounded like defer. Defer. I thought, why would he pronounce? He knows how to pronounce it, but he was apparently saying defense. And only later then did we find out that. But I knew right away, as soon as I heard him say, we want to kick off, we want to be on defense, and I then said, No, you don't. You want to defer.
Oh, yeah, Brad was going off at that point.
Because if you say that, then they're going to get their choice in the second half.
Yes, and you can see the video here, and, nobody knew what was going on, to be honest.
And then to be totally tickled this morning to read that DeMarcus Lawrence took it upon himself.
Kick it.
We want to play a D, kick it. And that was not the instruction. The instruction from the bench, apparently, Kristi, was take the ball.
Yes, that's right. And so,
which I also don't like, by the way.
You mess up the coin toss, which is the easiest thing to do. You mess up the opening kickoff, and you blow out the Rams 44-21. And they got 2 garbage touchdowns at the end. The Rams did. It was even more lopsided than that. But, Tyler, have you ever been in a situation in a game where you come out from halftime, from gathering together with your coaches and teammates, you come back on the field, and you don't know who's going to get the ball? Because that's what happened yesterday. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes. Yeah. So I think the year was 1999. It was a Turkey Bowl in Clovis, California. And we took a little break, and we couldn't decide who was going to get the ball. But that was literally the only time.
Fresno? Was this Fresno
Fresno,
State?
outside.
And who were you playing?
Yeah. I was playing my uncle, my buddy's uncle.
So what? Yeah.
It's a couple of kegs were involved.
Literally.
Kegs were involved.
No, it was literally like the Thanksgiving Turkey Bowl that you play with your family. But so I've never been a part of an organized game where you don't know what it is. The only thing I can think of that like somewhat relates to this is that whole coin flip fiasco, right? Like, what did you call? I thought you said heads, or I thought you said tails. Like that would be the only thing that I've ever seen remotely, because you know what it is, right? And your game plan through the first half has influence based off of what happens in the second half.
And that's why this is outrageous to me, because now it ended up everyone's kind of laughing about what happened with the coin toss.
Sean McVay might not be laughing.
But here's the thing. So just with a minute and a half to go in the first half, Sean Lee intercepts the ball, sets up the Zeke Elliott second touchdown of the first half. The Cowboys have a big lead going into halftime. But if Lee had not gotten that interception, if the Rams had gone on a drive and scored, it would have been a one-possession game going into the second half. And so this is huge. And And nobody knew who was getting the ball. And what happened was Walt Anderson, the referee, conferred with Al Riveron, the director of officiating in the league offices in New York. This is the guy who determines like the replay stuff and all of the controversy that has happened this year with pass interference or not pass interference, all of that. That's Al Riveron. And he's the one that corrected the mistake, that tried to get everything under control, but he waited until halftime.
Yeah, see, that's crazy to me that you wouldn't say if there's any uncertainty, because it's such a pivotal point in the game and direction what it is. Hold on, stop, or I'm going to walk over to the sideline and I'm going to confirm, but I'm also going to repeat back the exact, okay, the Cowboys have chosen to defer, and they will be kicking off in the first half. Rams, you will be receiving from this end zone. I mean, and that's pretty standard. They do this. Remember, like back in the day, instead of just calling it and running off, you switch sides. The referee will tap him on the shoulder, and he'll say he's receiving. I mean, it's very clearly stated. And so just how quickly they ran through this, and, Dak and DeMarcus are like, we want to kick, we want to be on defense, All right, cool, see it. And then ran off. And then, but the referee's job.
Well, he did say we defer, but it was after he said the first two.
And it was very
Anderson
clear.
did not hear we defer.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
And if I was the Rams at that point, I'd be jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Because for all of this, wait a minute, hold on a minute. You can't let him defer after he said defense.
Yeah.
So here's what happens with the Rams. We're a couple of possessions into the game. It is early in the first quarter, and Erin Andrews, who's on the sideline, obviously for Fox, we've been buddies a long time. We share information all the time. She comes up to me, and she's like, you know about the coin toss? I'm like, yeah, we got the audio. She says, Sean McVay just asked me who's getting the ball to start the second half. She says, I asked Byron Boston, he's the line judge. Byron Boston said the Rams get it because the Cowboys elected to kick. We're in the first quarter.
Wow.
Okay? And so she comes back. I said, we have the audio.
That's true.
And she says to me, now she's talking about the Fox crew in the production truck. They had I believe she said the stick microphone, so the one that's out there when they're gathered at midfield for the coin toss. They're going through trying to find the audio. We don't know yet, or they haven't heard whether he said if we defer, meaning Dak.
Yeah.
So it's going. They go into halftime. The Rams go into halftime thinking they're going to get the ball. We've been talking about it on Cowboys radio the whole time. I
thought Babe was going to hit me at one point. He was sick of talking about it. But you and I understood that it wasn't clear.
There's a lot riding on that.
And so
there really was.
As Walt Anderson and the officiating crew they go to, that would be the southwest tunnel in the corner of the end zone. They're going up the tunnel to take their break. They've got a locker room up that direction. And I asked Walt Anderson, who is getting the ball to start the second half? We're unclear on what happened with the coin toss.
This is my favorite part of the whole day
yesterday.
And
he says to me, I can't comment.
That's my favorite part of the whole day.
I can't comment.
Now that's actually not unusual.
We're still
really.
in negotiations.
But here's the thing: at this point, he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
He doesn't know really either, because Al Riveron has waited until halftime to confer with Walt Anderson.
That is insane.
Okay, now here's what happens at halftime. The players leave the field, and the referee
Walt,
punches.
have you been to Ukraine? I can't comment.
Well, Walt punches out. So what he does is the referee, just like when you have a timeout, he waves his arm over his head, and then he punches out. And when he gives that signal, the punching out signal, that's when the timekeeping starts. The clock starts either to count down a commercial break or to count down halftime. 13 minutes on the clock, punch out. Anderson heads up towards the tunnel along with the officiating crew. Now we're at the 2-minute mark. There's 2 minutes left in halftime. We're about 11 minutes later. So here, a lot of the Cowboys are back in the bench area. I'm at the tunnel because I want to talk to the officiating crew. Gary Brown, the running backs coach for the Cowboys, is the first offensive coach out of the tunnel. I ask, Gary, are we getting the ball to start the second half? He says, I don't know. I said, how can you not know? He says, we don't know. Gary keeps walking. Several seconds later, here comes Kellen Moore. the offense coordinator, who, by the way, calls the plays. Kellen, I ask, what's up? Are we getting the ball to start the second half? We don't know.
Wow.
He says, I think they were supposed to talk at halftime. And just then we turn and we look, and they're in front of the Cowboys bench at the 50-yard line. One of the offensive team captains, Zach Martin, is talking with Walt Anderson. Jason Garrett joins them. And at that point, we see a signal of we're going to get the ball.
$5 bill being exchanged, and then...
And at that point, I looked up at the countdown clock, and there was a minute and 30 seconds left in halftime.
Wow.
And I didn't learn until this morning that Sean McVay said that they learned a little earlier in halftime that they weren't getting the ball.
Insane.
You couldn't make it up.
No.
You couldn't make it up.
It's professional football.
And for those of you that were listening to the radio cast and listening to Brad and Kristi and Babe over the game, I mean, that sequence of events on the coin flip and then the kickoff. I mean, if you're a fan, you're like, here we go. Here we go. And you could just hear it in Brad's voice. It was just like the ultimate, just like,
I don't disguise my emotions very well.
What is going on here?
And poor Kai Forbath, the new kicker. I mean, his head just went down.
Yeah.
It was just like Charlie Brown after Lucy rips the ball away one more time.
Good for him. I mean, outside of the last kickoff, but at that point, the game had been won, and you could start to smirk about it. I wouldn't say you were allowed to have an all-out laugh, but he rebounded. I mean, three huge field goals and was consistent. And to be able to just to put that behind him, like, hey, welcome to Dallas.
But I was kind of angry at myself because it just kind of got by. I knew that he'd only kicked in one game for one team this year, and he'd only kicked a few games last year. But it just went through my brain pan to check with him on, have you kicked off? Because a lot of teams have their punters kick off, including New England, where he was for the one game.
Mm-hmm. Bailey, their punter, kicks off.
So that means, what has it been, 3 years since you kicked off?
Live in a game.
Yeah. And he said later on the post-game TV show, I said, congratulations, nice win. The hell happened to the first kickoff? And he said, I think I was too excited.
Yeah.
I was just all pumped up. But he might not have kicked off for 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, I know he practiced kicking off at UCLA. He lives in Santa Monica, where he works out, but that's not the same.
It's totally different, right? From a kicker's mentality, right? The mechanics have to be the same every single time you go and kick. And I lived with the kicker through college, and I mean, this kicker was a different breed. I mean, he was like a 400 bench press, 600-pound squat. Crazy.
So many of them are.
But I mean, different from the rest, where I mean, he was a monster. But it's so important to them in mechanics. And the mindset, if you are wound up at all and your mechanics are short or you're too fast or you're too slow, I mean, there's so many things that play into it. And if you're off a little bit and your steps are off, because think about how meticulously they measure their steps on field goals and kickoffs. It's the exact same every single time. And if you're off just a little bit and your first step, you're too excited, it's too big, it throws the whole thing off. And so I get it. I totally get it.
So let me interrupt you for a second because I want people to understand the ramifications of it throws the whole things off, because you've played on kickoff teams most of your life, right?
Yep.
So even today, with the touchback rules, what they are, and you have to stand on one foot with a handkerchief in your left ear, and nobody can do what they used to do. But you're told this is a kickoff. This is a right return, right? We are positioning people in the kickoff team to funnel them to a certain place if the ball is short, or we want to kick it short, or only the players on the kickoff team know. So just tell me if I'm right. That when you say it throws everything off, you guys know what the return is. And if the kicker missteps, mishits, then everybody is doing one thing, and the ball might be going somewhere else, and that's when you get one run right back down your throat.
That's right. And so, to your point, right, there's a level of trust on that kickoff unit. And that ball has to be – it's not like, oh, hey, kick it to the left side. No, it's like on the numbers 5 yards deep, that's where you need to put the ball. Or, hey, this kickoff, we're actually going to drop it in on the numbers on the 15-yard line because we know there's a gap. So from a kickoff coverage unit, what it does is, okay, so there's generally, left kick, middle kick, right kick, sky kick, both ways. And then there's deep, and then there's other levels of it. And what you do is your coverage, and the point of kicking it to a side, right, is now you're forcing the kick return team into being a one-dimensional team because you're saying, we're going to kick it to the left. We're not going to let you bring it back to our right. Based off of our coverage and our lanes that we've got to go down and cover, we're forcing you into one thing. Now, on the other side of the ball, the kickoff return team is like, okay, we know if you're going to kick it here every single time that this is how we're going to design a return off of that. But the trust level, so it's not like field goals where everyone's like, okay, you got to be perfect, you got to be exact. It's exact on kickoffs. It has to be in the same place every time because you are building a coverage unit based off of where that kick is. Same with punters. When you see where they're going, the coverage, and you see the releases from the gunners, which is like what the receivers are, the gunners, where they release, you could tell where he's kicking the ball. So you know exactly where he's kicking it because the coverage is dictated off of where they're kicking it. So it's not just going out and just swinging as hard as he can.
I got a tremendous education 2 weeks ago from Justin March, the Cowboys linebacker. Kristi, you can correct me. I think he's either 1 or 2 in special teams tackles
that's
for
right.
the year.
Mm-hmm. And an off-season award winner again this year.
And he went through for me because they were getting ready to play Cordarrelle Patterson, who is by far the most productive kickoff returner in the league this year. And so he was explaining to me how they have been switching to the number 4 position on the kickoff team, right and left, turns out to be probably your fastest, most
safety
agile.
Generally. That's what Jeff Heath for a lot of time he would play.
So March has been playing one of them, and C.J. Goodwin, who they consider their best tackler and special teams player, on the other one. And so people had been designing their kickoff return. I know this is so esoteric, but games swing on these things.
Yes.
People have been designing their return teams to try to run Goodwin out of the play.
Yep.
So the Cowboys, had been working on switching Goodwin and March from one side to the other, with the idea being to get mostly Goodwin and then March freed up.
Yep.
And off what they thought the blocking scheme would be. And if the ball is not hit the way you practiced all week for whatever reason, you got to mess.
The only gauge that you have on a coverage unit is where the returner is. Right? So that's the only – you can't see the ball while you're running down the field. It's a level of trust saying, okay, he's going to put it where I, before the kick, have decided my lane is going to be based off of the kick. So whether you're running down the numbers, whether you're switching with the guy and going from the numbers to the hash, and now the hash is your lane, there are landmarks on the field that you have to run down and cover based off of where you're expecting that ball to hit. So you hear special teams coaches lose it on kickers and punters if they mishit it, because if you've got your entire, let's just use punt for example, if you've got your entire coverage unit going deep right and he mishits it to the left, you cannot have lane integrity as you come back to the other side. Now you're chasing the play. And so it's a huge deal for these guys. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, all those returns are dictated on the two cover guys that are the most dangerous, and they're going to change up the scheme to try to take those guys out of it.
And the other wrinkle, actually a few wrinkles yesterday with special teams, is the injuries. Luke Gifford, who's been playing special teams, he has not had any defensive snaps this season. He's the rookie linebacker from Nebraska who suffered a broken forearm.
But a great preseason, got
great
hurt.
Preseason, and over 50 snaps on special teams in 5 games. He suffers a fractured left forearm early in the first quarter. It was actually on the Rams' second possession. They punted with a little over 8 minutes to go. A little under 10 minutes to go in the first quarter. Luke Gifford suffers a fractured forearm. Key guy on special teams now, his role. Joe Thomas, the linebacker, huge role on special teams all year. He's out with a knee injury. Chris Covington, who's been on your practice squad all year, who got promoted on Saturday, he's playing special teams in a game for the first time this year. And they've been switching. They did some more movement with Ventel Bryant this week, who, by the way, hurt his knee in practice on Friday. They weren't sure if he was going to play. Oh yeah, and you have a new kicker who probably hadn't kicked off for a few years. Yeah. So other than that, how did you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Defer.
So now on the show, we've made it through the first 2 minutes of the game.
Of the game, yes.
May I tell one more story, though? And this has to do, because we mentioned C.J. Goodwin.
Yes.
Okay. C.J. Goodwin, I just want Cowboys Nation to know how much this player is appreciated among teammates and coaching staff and others in the league as one of the really great coverage men in the NFL and as a flyer, okay? He's got a lot of respect among his teammates. But I finished writing a feature that's going to be in the game day program for the final regular season home game against Washington, and it has to do with how you get your shot in the league. Now, Tyler plays at Fresno State, and then he plays in Arena League in Canada and the United Football League, and so everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
But I've never met a player whose story of getting to the NFL has to do with shoveling cow manure. And that is how C.J. Goodwin
literal cow manure
literally shoveled blank to help get to the NFL. So C.J. Goodwin is from Wheeling, West Virginia, which is about an hour's ride from Pittsburgh. It's basically kind of like a Pittsburgh market kind of place and team. And C.J. Goodwin was a great basketball player in high school, and he played Division III and then Division II college basketball. But he was school teammates with the son of Mel Blount. Mel Blount, who was named to the NFL's all-time 100
great cornerback.
Team. One of the greatest cornerbacks in NFL history, obviously. And Mel has a working farm that does like youth programs. It's sort of like a Happy Hill farm almost, except that kids don't live there. So C.J. Goodwin gets hired by Mel Blount as a teenager to work on Mel Blount's farm, literally shoveling cow manure and mucking the horse stalls because Mel Blount breaks horses and trains them.
Yeah, he's a great horseman.
He gets promoted, CJ does, to working with the kids because they do all these mentoring and educational programs. So he's working his way up. He continues to work for Mel Blount all through high school and college. And then CJ only plays, he switches from basketball to college football. His senior year plays wide receiver. Long story short, Mel Blount says, you know what, you do well this year, and I will make a call to the Steelers for you. And Mel Blount, all the good graces that he has as a Steelers legend, only once has he ever picked up the phone and asked for a favor, to ask for a tryout, and it was for C.J. Goodwin. And it's because not only, obviously CJ's work ethic, but his high character. And that's how C.J. Goodwin got a shot in the NFL, and it goes back to the time that he was mucking horse stalls and shoveling cow manure for a legendary Pittsburgh Steelers
How about that?
player.
You had
That's
cushy.
insane. No, really though. Like seriously,
you were on Easy Street. You just didn't know it.
I was selling pumpkins, but he was literally wow. I didn't know that. That's incredible. But you know what though? The reason it translates to the field, right? You can see when a guy appreciates where he's at and loves it. And not to say that guys that are first round picks don't deserve it, or they're not good players, or they don't have a good work ethic, because some of the hardest workers were first round picks that I've been around. But there is just an appreciation for guys that go through things like that have a story that they had to scratch and claw to get there. Because Wednesday practice, when you're sore and you're tired, those guys are excited to be there. Those guys continue to work hard. Those are the guys that everyone else is like, dude, slow down, man. Come on. Seriously, slow down.
Making us look bad.
Yeah. I mean, really like the Jeff Heaths. I mean, he's another guy that like I hated practicing against, but I hoped that the defense hated practicing against me too, because every single time that person's going to be, but it translates. And the guys that are productive on special teams, those are those guys.
we've gone this far without me mentioning the fantastic Christmas sweater Kristi's wearing. Is that
Oh,
what
do
you're
you
wearing
like
to the
it?
Christmas party
I'm
tonight?
not wearing it to the Christmas party tonight. I got to go a little more blingy because, the Joneses, they want more bling. But it is a little more sparkly here in the podcast studio than I thought.
I'll be de-blinged. I'm just
So
telling you right now.
I've got to ask, right? Just because, Christmas spirit and turns to Christmas vacation. So turtleneck, is that a full turtleneck or is it part of the sweater?
No, it's a mock.
Oh, so like a dickie. Is it a dickie?
Like a dickie, yeah.
Like Cousin Eddie wore under his white
Showing your age now.
his white sweater with the green dickie underneath
Showing
it.
your
That's
age, sir.
That's right.
All right. There was a football game before the Christmas party and after the coin flip and the opening kickoff yesterday, and we'll be back to talk some more about it in just a minute on Radioheads.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Whether you're into being a part of this or more into something like this, SeatGeek has the tickets to the events you love. It's the easiest way to find, buy, and sell tickets. Plus, with their Deal Score technology, they'll recommend the best seats in the house at the best value. So the next time you're craving this, download the SeatGeek app and let's go. SeatGeek.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Ready? Okay. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. What's that spell?
So.
Are we gonna win?
Not if we play like we cheered.
Just okay is not okay. Whether it's cheerleaders or your wireless network, AT&T is America's best wireless network. Best network based on GWS 1 score September 2019.
Back to Radioheads.
Thanks for being with us on Victory Monday. We forgot what Victory Monday was like a little bit. He said snarkily. Brad Sham with Tyler Klutz and Kristi Scales. Michael Urban, you may have seen, decided yesterday on the NFL Network to go back to something that he had done before, that he felt he needed something for the mojo, so he started wearing the other teams' colors, the teams the Cowboys were playing on his NFL Network assignments. So Kristi apparently has adopted that.
Yeah.
I have.
With her Christmas garb.
I'm putting the
this
Mojo
afternoon.
Hex on the Eagles for next Sunday. No, this is not Eagles green.
For those
this is Christmas tree green, but thank you for those who commented on it.
I guess
so.
on camera
On
it
camera,
does
does it look
have
kinda
that
Pretty
Eagle-ish.
Eagles
kinda-
green.
Yeah, it's in person. It is lighter.
Pretty Eagles green.
Yeah.
All right, well, as soon
Kristi
as
once, by the way, when I think you'll correct me, when the Cowboys had signed Terrell Owens.
Oh, this is great.
And when the trip
Oh, this
was
is
to
great.
Philadelphia, so tell them the story about you in the parking lot at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia with the Terrell Owens jerseys.
My dear friends Ken and Elva Davis, who live in Philadelphia and I visit with on every trip, and I'll see them this weekend, they had a Terrell Owens Eagles jersey. And so as a kind of a bit, as a joke, and actually I was going to write a story about it for the Team magazine, I decided to wear the Terrell Owens Eagles jersey, even though he wasn't an Eagle anymore. He was a Cowboy playing in Philadelphia for the first time as a former Eagles player. So I went out tailgating for about 4 hours
Only
before
Kristi
kickoff
Scales would do this.
in a Terrell Owens jersey, just to see the reaction.
Yeah, I mean you can blend in-ish.
But not with a TO. And so I'm walking through and people are kind of looking at me And I'm pretending that I'm from Canada and have never been to a game before. And what's the big deal?
Like when you play in London and they wear like every other team's jerseys to the games because that's the only
So a very nice couple who had their RV all outfitted in Eagles, very nice middle-aged couple, pulled me to the side and said, "You might not want to be wearing that." And I'm like, well, it's the only thing I have.
It's an Eagles jersey, don't you know?
And what's the problem? And so what they did was they took duct tape and that they had in the RV, and they ghost busted the front and the back, like a circle with the thing across, so that it was anti-Terrell Owens. Oh. And then I was getting high-fived and free food in the parking lot. But it made for a great bit.
I mean, who would have thought, though, and this is me just being a hater, who would have thought that you actually would have come across some nice Eagles fans?
Actually, can I tell you how much Old Veteran Stadium was such an armpit, and ever since they moved to the Link, it's just not as vitriolic. And I think part of it is because the most vitriolic fans have been like priced out of the good seats down low and like over the tunnel and within battery throwing distance.
We knew that well in Fresno.
But anyway, so, I mean, there's still a lot of them, but maybe they're more in the upper decks than low. But here's how I knew that things had chilled with the new move to the new stadium. I think our first game there at the Link, it had to be later in the season because it was cold. I remember it being cold. And behind the visiting bench, they had set up a folding table, and on top of the folding table were 3 hot beverage dispensers. They had coffee, they had hot chocolate, and they had chicken broth. And that was behind the visiting bench. Yeah. So I'm helping myself to chicken broth, and then it occurs to me, I wonder if they spit in it.
Yeah, or whatever else. Yeah,
it actually wasn't chicken broth. It actually was just hot water.
Said chicken
it was just
broth.
Hot water.
It said chicken broth, and it was in Philadelphia about 3 years ago, I think, that the buses got egged.
I was literally gonna make a reference to getting egg. Well, I guess just when I was in Dallas. It happened multiple times when we were in Dallas playing in Philly. And I'd played there with some other teams, and it wasn't as bad, but the hatred.
Oh, no, the hate for the Cowboys in Philadelphia, New York, and Washington.
They know where you're coming. The fans know where the buses enter, and they line up.
Okay, they know the early crew is coming 2.5 hours before kickoff, and then the next crew is an hour and a half, and
actually,
they know.
The funniest, this is way back in the 90s. It's one of the first years I was doing a road trip. In the Redskins, it's still at RFK, which is in a neighborhood. I mean, you're going past row houses and things like that, and it's not real far from the Capitol. But we're going from – the team hotel was somewhere near the White House, and we go down – Pennsylvania Avenue and past the Capitol building. You're going through this neighborhood, and there's this boy that he couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, and he's just walking down the sidewalk, and he looks over his shoulder and he sees the Cowboy buses coming, and he just drops his drawers and moons the buses coming by. And I thought, boy, they teach them early here with the Redskins.
Yeah, hate is a part of the education very early.
And that can be energizing. Watch this segue. That can be energizing for a visiting team, right?
Yes.
And so the atmosphere should be electric on Sunday afternoon, in spite of the fact that both teams have been occasionally absolutely rancid throughout the years. So let's talk about psychology of the game. I was interested in the fact that Sean Lee and Dak Prescott, among others, said after the game yesterday that Jason Garrett gave one of the best hype talks they'd ever heard on Saturday night before the game. You can attest he's pretty good at that.
Yes, he is.
When he
very,
brings
very
his
good.
A game.
Very good.
This is what he sounded like after the game.
Yeah.
Big hugs all around, and we're going to hear the audio of that in just a moment.
Yeah,
but that has a real effect.
It does. It does, right? Because the difference between the Friday night game or the Saturday night speech, which is always good, and you watch the highlight video and like you get it going, but then you got to go to bed. right? And then you got to wake up, and then you got to manufacture it again. Because generally, 3:00 game, you may do a walkthrough, but you're not coming together as an entire team the day of the game. So that's the last time you're all together. But it's prepared too. So he has all week, and Jason, of all coaches, works on this all week long,
like a sermon.
Yes, and very much so. And so he brings in all these lessons that he's talked about over the year, over the last couple of weeks, whatever's relevant that week, and he implements it, and he does such a great job. But what we'll hear in a little bit post game is that is raw and that is real, and that's been right. So. In all transparency, that is the thing that has been the criticism of Jason this whole time, right?
From fans and media who never see that part of him.
Well, and I'll say this, and I said transparency because I do believe in that. And that was one thing I craved a little bit as a player, especially 2015, when I wanted him to go off on the team. And I wanted him to hold people accountable. But he is so consistent, and he's so well prepared. And what you heard on, and I've heard this, I heard it earlier today, but that's off the cuff. He didn't have time on the field to prepare this speech and know what he's going to say and how well he's going to. That is as raw and real as you're going to get.
This is it.
Hey, listen up. Just a hell of a job, guys. That's a hell of a job. It started on Monday when you came in, the way we practiced all week long, your mindset and your mentality to come to work. To make it a one-day season. That's what we did all week long. Then we made it a one-game season. Okay, we knew what it was going to be all about. You guys got your mind right, your spirit right, and your body right to play the way we played. Okay, we talked about recapturing the DNA of our team, about team. Team was on display today. You guys know where we are, though. You guys know where we are. We're right back at it. We talked about it all week long. This one's done. Now it's tomorrow. Yes. Tomorrow's a one-day season. Yes. Big time job, guys. Yes, sir.
The consistency about him is something that I admire it because I'm incapable of being so emotionally and you can tell when when it gets to him.
Yeah,
Kristi, you and I both been around him a lot when we've seen when it really touches him, but. It just, whether he's the coach here next year or not, or whatever he does, the fact that people think that he is robotic and emotionless, that drives me nuts.
Not the case. Yeah. Not the case at all. And as a player, you see it. Because here's the thing is there's a lot of work that goes into a Sunday, right? And people don't see how much work and how much passion people put into the preparation. And I know that, Sundays have not been stellar this year, and there's been a lot of gaps, and there's been some ups and some downs. But the thing is the players see how much he prepares, which it directly correlates to his passion and how real he is and how much he cares about the guys, because he is always prepared and he's always ready for guys. And there's a sense of security in knowing that your coach, he's not going to walk into this game unprepared. He may not make the right calls at the right moment. Nobody does. Nobody does. In Boston, they talk about Bill Belichick not making the right call on sports radio. I guarantee it. But here's the deal: and Jerry and what he is saying is why am I going to make a change? What's better out there? What's going to be better here? And and next year, is there anybody better than him for this team?
Now you've brought up something else, and that is a question that among the three of us, I think only you can answer. And that is, do you reach a point, barring the kind of success that, for instance, New England has had, where you just need a different voice?
I haven't seen and we talk about it, there's no quit in this team, but there's something really important to that. These guys still play really hard. They may not do the right things, but they still play really hard, which if they're playing hard for someone, whatever the motivation is, are they going to play harder for someone else? I don't know. And I think that's the question that Steven and Jerry and Jerry Jr. and Will and all these decision makers are questioning is there someone out there that's better? And I don't know. I'll say this. I know there's no one out there that's going to prepare as much as he does. Now, again, is he preparing in the right way for this team? I don't know. I'm 100% a Jason Garrett advocate. I think that he is a great man. He's a great leader. Guys follow him. And the other thing, too, is that I tell people, they're like, oh, what was your favorite team that you played for? And it's really easy for me. It's the Cowboys. And they're like, oh, yeah, because, there's a lot of perks for playing for the Cowboys and the Jones family. No, it was literally the first time I enjoyed football like I did in high school.
Really?
100% the truth. And you ask my wife that, the same thing is I enjoyed ball again to the level that I did. Whereas there was a handful of years where I was playing in the NFL, it was a job. And it was, I have to work, and every day it was life or death, which, is good and which is bad. But when I came here, I still wanted to work hard, but I enjoyed football, and Jason was the reason for that.
And why Tyler and Tiffany on Friday night were here at the Star.
Oh, yeah.
Helping Jason Witten and Michelle Witten and the Dallas Cowboys Women's Association. Even though Tiffany and Tyler haven't been, on the roster, they're still helping with the charitable event on Friday night because all the stuff about football and family and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true in so many cases.
So before we have to wrap up, that will lead me to hearing each of you answer a question I was asked on the radio locally this morning, and that was this. And you answer, and then I'll tell you what I said. Was the win yesterday more enjoyable or maddening?
Ooh, it was both, actually. No, it was more enjoyable. Mm-hmm. It was more enjoyable, and here's why. Sean Lee, and I said this on the air, Sean Lee's interception return where he looked he out-zeked on the return. Yeah. The celebration on the sideline, Jason Witten, I've never seen him jump that high. I didn't know he had that much sky in him to do a flying chest bump to Sean Lee. But that was the big, other than a game-winning play at the end, that was the biggest celebration I can remember in a long time on the Cowboys sideline.
I agree, and 100%. It was more fun. It was enjoyable to watch that. I'm an optimist, so I want these guys to do well. I still know and are friends with a lot of guys on this roster, and I want this group of men to be successful. So seeing that, not that like I'm a dad, but it's that feeling like I want them to do well and I want them to be successful. And Sean having the game that he did, like no one's more deserving of playing at that level and getting the recognition for it than him. And then Jason too. I mean, you see that catch, like he surprises you. Yeah. I mean, that one-handed catch. Watching those things, it was so fun to watch because yes, finally we're seeing what they're capable of and what we expected them to do, but also just to see them, that confidence. And we've talked momentum all year, right? And the effect of that and what that's going to have. To see that, hey, here's a spark. Right. And then Troy was talking about, I heard Troy talking about it on the TV cast and talking about the 95 team and how they just did not play very good ball, but they hit it at the right time. And we are built to play well against really good teams because we have the talent. Now, we haven't showed that consistently, but the only time that it really matters is from here going forward. So we're here and everything is at our fingertips. It's just now the big question is okay, you can get up for games, and I'll end it with this because I know we're running at the end. It's such a week-to-week thing, right? And the Rams played lights out against the Seahawks, and it was like really scary thinking that they're going to come in here and they're going to have momentum, but they showed up like that. It reminds me of the 2014 Indianapolis Colts game when we secured the division, and I think they were like 9-4 at the time. They were a really good team playing really good ball, and on film they looked amazing. And they came in and we beat the brakes off of them. And I thought, honestly, coming into that game, I thought we were a little bit laxed, and I thought that I don't know if we're focused because we don't have to win this. We just have to win one more game this year, and we'll get one the next week. And I honestly came in a little bit worried, and we came in and absolutely beat them up. And this game reminded me of it. This really, but it's a week-to-week deal, and the big question is can we replicate 2 weeks in a row?
And that's why my answer to the question, was it more enjoyable or maddening, was first I said to myself and not out loud. Yeah. See, this is why I hate fans and some media sometimes. Mm-hmm. Why do you have to ask that question? Why? And that's why the answer I gave on the air was, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it was more enjoyable or maddening because, and then I said what you just said, Tyler, the only thing that matters is what they do now.
Yeah.
If they just go do what they know and have now reminded everyone they are capable of doing, then they will continue to go and do what they wanted to do. Yeah. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter. The Vikings game doesn't matter. Would you like to have the best record and play 2 games at home? And yeah, of course you would. But St. Louis Blues, Washington Nationals, you have to be in. Yeah. Once you're in, then you do what you can do. And all the Green Bay and Jets and all the nonsense doesn't matter. Mm-mm. It just doesn't matter. Jason Garrett was 100% right. It's a one-game season.
Mm-hmm. It's a one-day, one-game season.
That's correct. And today's the day.
That's right.
So if this isn't blingy enough for Kristi to wear to the Christmas party tonight, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Oh. I'm looking forward because
you wait about 3 hours.
I will have no bling. I have no bling. We are not going to be here because of the holiday next week. Yep. We'll tell everybody that right now, and then we'll see what's going on in 2 weeks. But we might be looking forward to getting ready for a playoff game in a week's time after that.
That is exactly right.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays, Mr. Klutz.
Thank you.
You I'll see later.
Yeah.
All of you, thanks for being with us. I'm Brad Sham. This is Radioheads.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!